The Story of Sylvia with a Twist, based on an episode of The Little House on the Prairie. Once upon a time, in a small prairie village, there lived a young girl named Sylvia. Sylvia was 14 years old and very pretty. The people of the village were good, kind people who attended church every Sunday. Sylvia's boyfriend, Albert, is her same age. They way more than just enjoy each other's company. They are deeply in love. Now the other boys at school couldn't take their eyes off of Sylvia, for she was well developed at her young age. The boys at school were mischievous, for they liked to peep at Sylvia in the most inappropriate of places. But the day came when Mrs. Olson caught them at their dirty little actions, and their naughtinesses was put to a fast end. Unbeknownst, in this quiet little town was two evil eyes watching young Sylvia, and most horribly, it's one of their own people. One day, innocent and unknowing, young Sylvia was walking home alone through the forest. She heard a noise, so she pauses to listen. Then suddenly, from out of nowhere, a man with the most terrifying, devilish mask ever grabs her from behind and puts a hand over her mouth to smother her scream. Some time later, poor Sylvia, covered with dirt and clothes torn, arrives back home. Her easily angered papa, being simple-minded, didn't understand. What happened? What happened? Poor little Sylvia tries to tell him, but he acts as if she brought it on herself. He tells her that she's brought shame upon their family, and she's to tell no one none of it. And after that, the mean, abusive father forbids her to never see Albert again. Guilty and ashamed Sylvia becomes quiet and withdrawn. Laura, the school teacher, notices the change in her, and so does Albert. Albert asks Sylvia what is wrong and tries to comfort her, but she can only say sorry and run. A couple months later, Sylvia faints at school. Laura gets Doc Baker to examine Sylvia. He finds that she's with child. They were not able to keep this quiet. When Sylvia's angry and abusive father finds out, he is outraged. He tells Sylvia she is to stay around the house and go nowhere. He makes plans to sell the farm and have them move far away where no one knows them. Albert goes to the farm to visit Sylvia. They lovingly embrace. Knowing her father plans to take her far away, Albert suggests he and Sylvia run away and get married. Sylvia is so happy to hear this. But when Sylvia's father gets home, he gets wind that Albert's been there. He is so angry he does not let Sylvia explain. He yells a most horrible name at her. Then very upset Sylvia dashes out the door. Frightened, misunderstood Sylvia runs away and hides in an old abandoned barn. Her father, Charles, and Albert go out looking for her. Albert finds her first, and Sylvia pleads for him to run away with her and get married. Albert agrees and tells her to stay put while he goes to get money and food. Albert has been working for the molester unknowingly, so while getting caught borrowing money, informs the bad man where Sylvia is. So whilst Albert leaves to get food, the bad man goes after the girl again. He puts his devilish mask on and walks into the barn. Sylvia wakes up, sees him, and runs. He grabs her, but then Albert comes in and jumps on him. Sylvia is so frightened she starts up a ladder. Charles and her father come rushing into the barn. Her father then shoots the bad man. The ladder breaks and Sylvia takes a great fall. They rush Sylvia to see Doc Baker. They do not think Sylvia is going to make it, but by a slim chance Doc Baker is able to save her life, but not the baby's. The bad man, who happened to be the town's blacksmith, did not die. He was sent to prison for life. The townsfolk were shocked and horrified by this happening. Her father felt her life had been tainted and still wanted them to leave town. Sylvia knew she was too embarrassed to stay, even if it meant she could be with Albert. Albert visited Sylvia until she was recovered enough to travel. They vowed they would keep in touch and wait for each other until they could be married. But sadly, they both knew they might never see each other again. Some of the town people and the Ingalls family were there at the train station with Sylvia and her pa to bid them farewell. So sadly, as the train pulled up, Albert and Sylvia lovingly kissed each other goodbye. The end.